Thanks, Pastor, for taking the time to be with us, and thanks for the message that you shared. So we have some questions. We're going to take a few from the chat, and then if we have the raise hand feature, we will take them. No, your time is precious. So we'll ask Claudia to read the first question.
Okay, so the first one says, Dr. Edwards, how do we keep the non-pivot foot strong so that community champions are most effective?
All right, I didn't hear the first part. I heard so that community champions are most effective. What I did not hear is the first part.
How do we keep the non-pivot foot strong?
So the question is, how do we keep the non-pivot foot strong while finish it?
So that the community champions are most effective.
Got it. So I think what the question is asking is, how do we keep the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ firm and strong so that the neighborhood champions, those in their houses, will make sure that they are not deviating from the gospel of Jesus Christ? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's reasonable, yes.
Is that it? All right. I think then you have to do what we have done is do weekly training, and we gather with them. We send an email and a video every week to them, whether it's practice or theology or insights on how to deal with people, how to deal with difficult people, how to deal with theology, how to share your faith, how to disciple somebody, and we give them the books related to each one of those four in the chairs so that they are fully equipped to do the work of the ministry. And most brethren churches do this so well already in terms of giving the ministry away. That's not the hard part. The hard part is now going to be, how do you make sure they are teaching and equipped to do the work of the ministry? Which means we have to use the same tools we have now, which is Zoom and YouTube and all of that, to get the information to them so that they are fully equipped to handle many of the issues that might arise in the discussion.
Thank you, Pastor. Let's go ahead to the second question, Claudia, second chat. And if there's any raised hand question, we'll take one.
All right, second question. In this COVID-19 pandemic, as leaders, how do we pivot in terms of outreach to our communities and reaching those in our communities who have no access to internet and Wi-Fi?
Great question. So then I would suggest two things. In this season, what we've tried to do is this morning, right now, we're doing feeding a part of the area that we're in. And so we're giving away free food that we got for free from a food pantry. And so we're feeding them, and we're walking around to everybody's house, and we're putting a flyer on their door, and we're telling them, if you are hungry, you don't have enough food, we'll give you boxes of canned food, and everybody gets 3 boxes of canned food. It cost us $0. It was a partnership we did with a food for the poor type thing, where we allowed them to partner with us to help the people in this particular area. So we flyered their neighborhoods, we told them about it, and we're just blessing the community and then inviting them to church online while we do that. That's one opportunity. Opportunity number two is to partner with the schools and see how the schools can tell you what the greater needs are, and then see if you have any skill sets that can meet those needs when you partner with the school system, whether it's the primary level or the secondary level or the tertiary level, to see how you can meet needs based on what the principals and the students and the teachers think they have. So those are just two ways you can get in the community without even needing internet whatsoever.
All right, thanks, Pastor. I said, do you have a raised hand? Do you have anybody raising their hands? If not, Claudia, go ahead, ask another question from the chat.
Sure. Dr. Edwards, can you say some more about those side door ministries?
Which 5-door ministry? I don't know what you're talking about.
Side door ministry.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So the idea there is we have to ask the question, what do we do best? What do we do? What skill sets has God blessed our church with? And then ask, how do we put that together in a way so that we can reach people? That's number one. Number two, what are the greatest needs in our community? And then how do we match our skill set with the needs of the community so that we can be of benefit to the community? That's why I use this thing called the painkiller and the vitamin. And how do we, where are people's pain points? How are they hurting? And what can we do to bless them? And so for us, there are 6 of them that we have, because in the divorce rates have gone up 35% where we live over last year. So couples is a big one. What that means is we do 5-minute videos just for couples, and we put them at theocc.tv, and then we send it out on our social media platforms to couples that have been hurting, or couples that have sought counseling, or couples that have talked about divorce. And then we target those people and we send it out to them, and we say, here's a resource, hopefully this helps, and hopefully it helps them. If they do, we do it every Tuesday and Thursday, I think. And then if they respond to that, then we target them and say, hey, if you ever want to come to church, here's what we do on the weekends. If not, we'd love to interact with you about your marriage. And then if they need counseling and so on, we can go from there. Excuse me. Another thing we do is, we know we have these kids program that we do, these kids sing along. So we think we have a good team that can do great kids worship. So we have this, y'all know Father Abraham. So we just make that contemporary, and we make it real relevant to the current culture. And we'll do Father Abraham. We'll put it to music. We'll have a great time. It'll be different. It'll be original. And then we put that out there. And to parents, if you ever want something clean to listen to, here you go. You can listen to this. That's just something we do. It's about 5 minutes long again. We put it out there, targeting parents of kids under 12 years old. The next one we do is women's ministry. So we target women's ministry, and we say, okay, there not a lot of people have an exclusive women's ministry in the middle of the week. So we're going to target it. And then we say we have a women's ministry, we're going to target it. And so we'll put that up. Then we'll do something called a sidebar, which is where it's just women talking to women. And it's just like a panel, and we just talk about whatever it is. And by the way, you can see all of this on theocc.tv if you want any ideas. But those are just 3 things we do. But you must ask, and start by asking, what do we do better than most people? What are the unique gifts we have? And how can God leverage those to reach people far from God? So that's how I'd answer that.
All right, thanks, Pastor. Now, because of the time we have, we won't get through to all the questions. So maybe about next 5 or 7 minutes. Is that good for you, Pastor?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
All right. Anthony, anybody raising their hands?
Yes, we have 2. Mike DeLeon first.
Okay, so Mike, just unmute your mic, and as succinct as possible, ask your question.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I just want to say thank you for the message. Second time I listened to it, I enjoyed it. It was good. Praise God for your ministry and what you're doing. But the question is, one of the issues we face in Jamaica is the number of churches that exist. And why I say that's a difficulty we face. The question basically is, we want to expand geographically, right? But how do you go about it with not creating division within the communities because of the number of churches? So you mentioned Olivet can only used to be an Olivet. So, all right.
Thanks, bro. Is that question clear, Pastor?
Yeah, man. So
thanks, Mike.
So your goal is to not look like church. That's your goal. Your goal is, it shouldn't be somebody with a microphone looking like it's in a podium looking like it's church. Your goal is, you're not concerned about what other churches are doing. You're concerned about the needs of the community, which is why when we do some things, we're outside and we're just doing it road, cold turkey outside. Sometimes we go to a hotel to do it. Sometimes we beg somebody to use them house and we do it in their house. So you're not trying to look, the reason why it's not on a Sunday is because you're not trying to look like a church. You're trying to look like a group of people just authentically sharing about a pain point in your life, and you're trying to help somebody else. So the goal there is not to worry about what other churches are doing. Bless them, pray for them, God bless you. All you're concerned about is you're trying to reach people that have never been reached by doing things that have never been done. That's your goal. So get creative with how you do it. You got a beautiful ocean somewhere. Go sit down by the ocean and have a conversation. I don't care what you do, but just don't do, if it look like church, you're doing the wrong thing. It shouldn't look, I'm getting too passionate. Let me calm down.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
What I love you to do is get creative and don't let it look like church. You're not trying to reach church people. You're trying to reach people who don't go to no church, or who tired of church, or who don't like God no more, or who God hurt them, they think, so they now can't be bothered with God. You're trying to reach them with a different avenue and a different strategy. That makes sense?
Yes, Pastor. Claudia, take one from the chat.
Sure.
Two more questions.
Charmaine is asking about rural churches and the fact that some have no pastors and they need training and discipleship. What can be done to assist these leaders in the rural areas?
So then what I would consider doing is asking the question, can these rural churches combine their resources and then have a combined effort, what we're trying to do with your phone, with a video, whatever, to reach that whole region, as opposed to an individual church doing it? And what are the skill sets that we can combine together for the glory of God in that region? So it becomes a collaborative effort, not an individual effort anymore.
All right, one more from the chat and one more hands raised, and then I have a question. One more from the chat, Claudia, go ahead.
Okay. Does reimagining church mean that the brethren may have to change the concept of plurality of leaders and autonomy to have properly recognized pastors who are CEOs of their respective assemblies?
Absolutely not. The plurality of leaders is, I think, a part of what we don't get to change, because I think that is a biblical concept and a biblical really command. I do think that how that's fleshed out becomes critical and important for it to be a healthy system. And so I do not believe that churches should not be governed by a plurality of leaders. I believe they should, but I do believe that that plurality of leaders should give the person with the leadership gift the opportunity to lead the team while they govern the church. And so the way we coin it is that the shepherd leads the church while the elders governs the church. And I think there are clear demarcations there if you want to be healthy. And so I would believe that you should have plurality, but within the plurality, there should be the free expression of the gift of leadership by somebody who is uniquely gifted in that and committed to the work.
Thanks, Pastor.
Anyway, don't be asking me more challenging questions that's trying to disrupt the whole movement. All right.
Right.
I know you're trying to give me some softballs so I can say something I shouldn't say. All right. My mommy and daddy's on the phone, so I gotta stay straight.
One last hand. You have another question, Antoinette?
Yes, sure. Lawrence from Bethany Fellowship. You can go ahead.
All right, Doc, ask the question. Go ahead, sir. Unmute your mic, Doc, and ask the question. It's still there.
Hi, Conway. How are you doing?
Who this?
That's Lawrence.
Oh, go on, Frederick. Oh, sorry, I need to remember it's a professional environment. Please, Doc, go ahead, please.
Good to see you. You're allowed to delve in the vernacular.
Question, Doc.
Conway, thanks for that. The question is actually similar to one that was asked. To what extent is this an opportunity to consolidate, like, for example, a gifted person or gifted persons doing Bible study? Does that of necessity mean the autonomy in terms of teaching will now be taken from the local church to now the global church? That's to say that if there is expertise at point A, but it's not at points A, B, and C, what would the role of points B and C have within the context of what is taught?
Is question clear, Pastor?
Yeah, man. So
Thanks,
Lawrence,
Doc.
that's a brilliant question, by the way. It really is. And this is where leadership development becomes important. This is where order becomes important. This is where being willing, understanding the spirit of Absalom, the spirit of Jezebel, and the spirit of Korah becomes important. And all I mean by that is, if you're not leading the church well, then it can lead to islands that are detached from the mainland, and you're not trying to get younger leaders doing their own thing, having their own following. It ought to be under the auspices of the local church, and then here is how we're going to allow leaders to develop their gift if they really do have the gift. And so I think it's not just go do your own thing. It ought to be extraordinarily intentional what you're trying to do, and then progressively having earned the right. But now I got to watch that. Not earn the right meaning you have to sell your soul to the leaders, but earn the right meaning faithfulness. And faithfulness does not mean you got to go to every service every time the church door. Faithfulness means they have the right heart. There's a difference between Judas and Peter. Peter had a bad day. Judas had a bad heart. You're not looking, when you see Judas, those are the guys you want to keep out. When you see Peter's, those are the guys you want to develop. For far too often, we see everybody that disagrees with leadership as Judas's, when oftentimes they're just Peters who are immature and don't know the right questions to ask, are not so sure, haven't been fathered well, don't know how to ask it in an honoring way. But we cannot punish the Peters like we want to punish the Judases. And that is a massive part of church leadership problem. So let me try and answer your question comprehensively now. So I think once you have an intentional strategy of here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to do it, once you identify the people with unique gifts based on not just what the leaders say, but based on what the community says, based on how people engage with the video and whatever you're trying to do. Once you have that, now that becomes a part of a discipleship process for the leaders to do with these individual leaders, and then you're coaching them to get to maximize their potential for the glory of God. Does that make sense, Lawrence?
Yes, I follow. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Pastor. Thanks for the questions. We're at the end of our Q&A. Pastors have one more question, and then you can close with any closing remarks that you want to make. Speak to us about the cost a team of leaders has to pay to pull this off. The idea of reimagining church, the idea of pivoting. In another space, for example, you mentioned the idea of meeting frequently, and not many teams are willing to meet frequently, something as simple as that. So speak to us about the cost a team of leaders has to pay to pull this off, and then make any closing remarks that you want to make.
All you have to do is ask and answer the question, if you're starting a company from the ground up, do you put time into it once a week for 2 hours? Or are you eating, breathing, and living this thing because your livelihood depends on it? I believe that too many people are putting so much energy into their livelihood, which is absolutely appropriate, that they only have leftover time for the kingdom of God, which is why I would argue that every church needs a pastor, because they need somebody and some people, a body of people that are eating, breathing, praying, fasting, pleading with God for ideas and concepts to really reach the community as a whole. The way you know you're serious about it is by how many times you're talking and interacting and meeting with each other, so that we're actually solving the big problems in our community and how to get there. When your community leaders are asking you to help them solve problems, you know you're in the right position, because the Bible says, Jeremiah 29, around about verse 7 says, you ought to seek the welfare of your city, of your community. The reason the church is there is not just so people can come, but it's so that when they come, they can now go be a blessing to the community. For far too long, we only cared about people coming and not us being a blessing to the community. And I think part of our intentional strategy needs to be, part of the problem we need to fix is how are we benefiting the community? And so I think if you're not meeting regularly to process, to pray, to plan, to execute, then your problems are not big enough nor urgent enough for you to meet that much. The reason why you do it in your job, the reason why you do it in your business, the reason why you do it at school is because there are problems to solve that are large, and it's our assignment, I believe, to come up with strategies to solve it. But you cannot solve it with leftover thinking. You've got to solve it with the best brain power that church has to figure out how we're going to reach people far from God. And so that's what I'd recommend to them.
Thank you, sir. And again, thank you for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Any closing comments, any closing remarks that you want to leave with us as you go?
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody. I'm so excited for your opportunity to think outside the box and to leverage technology for the glory of God. On my wall, I'm looking at it now. It says, if you want to reach people that have never been reached, you've got to do things that have never been done. I think all of us now have the opportunity to do things that have never been done. I think the enemy thought, if you know the game of chess, if they took away our queen, then we'd have to fold. And so the queen for the church is the building. So if they took away the queen, then you'd have to fold. But here's the good news. The good news is when you play chess, if you want to be a great chess player, then you take the queen off and you play the game without your queen. And so what God is doing is preparing us to play the game without our queen. So that, and then the queen means the building. That's the big thing for us, right? The building. So we get an opportunity to develop and flex all the other muscles the church has so that we can be the best we can be. So that when the building comes back, we're no longer dependent on the building that much. What we're now dependent on is we're using all the gifts, all the abilities, all the strategies that we have, and that now adds to the building. But if you come out of this the same way you went into it, you are an accident waiting to happen, because it means you would have not learned anything and you'd have gone back to the same old. And I hope that happens to no church on the entire island of Jamaica. I hope and I pray and I'm begging God that we come out radically differently than we came in. I hope that for your church life, and I hope that for your personal life, that you're coming out of this pandemic completely different than getting. If your org chart doesn't change coming out of this, then you did not learn the lesson I believe God wants us to learn. If you don't have somebody that's exclusively over digital now and over social now and a whole team over that, then you would not have learned the lessons that I believe God is trying to teach us, why he allowed us to go through this. So that's it, man. Love you guys.
Thank you so much, Pastor, and look forward to further partnerships with you and your church as we move forward.
Anything we can do to help, man. Anything, we'd love to.
Thank you, man. Bless you, and we'll talk. Bye.